I am absolutely going to testify. I won't even say his name. He is an evil being and is going to pay.
I just said that it seems very odd and strange when you watch those videos with Diddy and Justin Bieber talking.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
Bieber, just looking at his body, I ain't no body language expert, but he just seemed very uncomfortable.
Justin Bieber's camp is finally responding. So his representatives told TMZ, quote, although Justin is not among Sean Combs' victims, there are individuals who were genuinely harmed by him. Shifting focus away from this reality detracts from the justice these victims rightfully deserve.
I think that I was just, living in this shame, living in all this sort of stuff of my past, and I wasn't able to move on.
Are we going to see some celebrity or celebrity friends testify at this trial?
What exactly did Justin Bieber say in court that made Diddy completely lose his cool? According to witnesses, no one saw it coming, and the entire courtroom was left in shock.
And just think about how young I was and so impressionable. And you have everybody telling me how awesome I am at all times, and
It's like taking a kid and putting a kid in a room full of nothing but sweets.
Right.
And just saying, I'll be back in 2 days.
Exactly. I just want people to understand, the psychology behind why I potentially could have problems in my life.
So a lot of people watching this have probably seen this swirl on social media about a connection between Justin Bieber and Diddy. This has been going on actually for years, where people have wondered what kind of a relationship did they have, and really what people are asking is, did Diddy Justin Bieber?
Okay, I had to trim that. He said people are asking, did Diddy Justin Bieber? I had to trim that out. Just letting you know, I don't know what else is going to be said in here. But that had been the rumor. That had been speculated. And a lot of people are just trying to figure out, is that tied to the connection of him spiraling? And it just seemed like he's very depressed out there in public. And it seemed to be heightened when all the news about Diddy came out. So that was the connection.
No, it can't be, because one of the biggest questions in the Diddy trial is what other celebrities will be named, who participated in the freak-offs and who witnessed the freak-offs. I mean, Diddy's white parties are infamous. And one of the victims that people have been talking about for about a year and a half now has been Justin Bieber. And now finally, after week 1 of trial, when we know that Don Richard is the next witness and we're going to start hearing who the government thinks is going to help corroborate their case, we are not going to hear from Justin Bieber. And it really goes back to a video when he was about 15 years old, when Combs said he was going to spend 48 hours with Justin Bieber. And that's when all the speculation began. Bieber's camp didn't say anything until now, but I think it's important that he did. And he also, like many celebrities in Hollywood, want to stay as far away from the Diddy trial.
The courtroom was already tense, but everything changed the moment Justin Bieber walked through the doors. No one expected him to be there, let alone take the stand. You could almost hear the room gasp. For days, the media had been buzzing about possible witnesses, but Bieber's name never came up. Clearly, this was a strategic surprise. He walked, in calmly, head held high, dressed in a simple yet sharp suit. Not the flashy look of a pop star, but someone with a purpose. His quiet confidence said it all. This was serious. All eyes immediately shifted to one person, Diddy. As soon as he saw Bieber, he froze. Normally cool and in control, Diddy was visibly shaken. He shot quick glances at his lawyers, whispering tensely. People in the gallery leaned in, murmuring to each other as Bieber made his way to the stand. Even the judge looked briefly caught off guard before bringing the room back to order. What made this moment so powerful wasn't just Bieber's unexpected presence. It was the shared history between him and Diddy. Years ago, Diddy had taken Bieber under his wing. He was more than a mentor. He was a major force in Bieber's rise to fame. So for Bieber to now testify against him, that's what truly shook the courtroom. And judging by Diddy's reaction, he had no idea it was coming. Drama went up a notch. The looks flying between Diddy and his legal team said it all. They were completely blindsided. But Justin Bieber, he stayed calm and steady. As he took the oath, there wasn't a hint of hesitation. His voice was firm, his answers clear. Any nerves he might have had weren't showing. The crowd quieted down, all eyes glued to him. This wasn't the young, carefree pop star people remembered. This was a serious, grown man, clearly ready to speak his truth. And from the look on his face, he wasn't planning to hold anything back. Keeping Bieber's involvement a secret until the last second was no coincidence. Legal experts believe it was a smart move by the prosecution, one meant to throw Diddy off balance, and it worked. You could feel the tension rise. Diddy's lawyers scrambled, whispering and flipping through papers. Diddy himself sat stiff, in his seat, fidgeting with his watch, visibly uncomfortable. But the big question on everyone's mind was, why did Bieber's testimony matter so much? For years, there have been whispers about Diddy's inner circle and the mysterious, high-profile parties he hosted. Rumors filled with speculation but never confirmed. Just seeing Bieber there suggested those rumors might finally be addressed. Even before he said a word, his presence hinted that secrets were about to come out, and Diddy seemed to know it. As Bieber settled into the witness chair, the room went completely still. The tension was almost physical. People looked back and forth between the two men, waiting to see what would happen next. Bieber appeared calm, maybe even distant, but those who know him could see he meant business. Meanwhile, Diddy couldn't hide the strain. Little movements, deep breaths. It was clear he was struggling to stay composed. This wasn't just about what Bieber would say. It was about what his testimony represented, a moment of reckoning that had been building for years. When Diddy leaned over to quietly speak with his lawyer, you could see the worry on his face. He knew things were about to get worse. Whatever, Bieber was about to reveal it had the power to shift the entire trial, and everyone in that courtroom felt it. The stakes had just reached a whole new level.
Yeah, so, I just want to protect her, you know? I don't want her to lose it. I don't want her to, go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. So, if she ever needs me,
Let's just say that Diddy didn't do anything to Justin Bieber. I'm just wondering, because of Justin Bieber's age at the time, did he have women? And when I say women, I'm talking about grown women come over and, you know what I mean? Because that would still be bad. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Another possibility could have happened.
Emails, the text messages, the words that she put, those words of affirmation. So to the extent that there are other victims, that's how the government's going to be able to overwhelm the defense here. And if it's a celebrity victim, even better.
See, here's the thing. I think about it, and I'm sure he didn't want to. I guess the idea is, not distract from the conversation that's being had, but to make a statement towards the end of the week, after opening statements, or towards the conclusion of Cassandra Ventura's testimony, when he makes a statement confirming that there were people harmed by Combs, does that signify to you that he believes the prosecution's case, or does he think it's beyond the criminal case and based on the accusations we've seen in the civil arena?
I think it's probably the former. And like you said, the key part of that statement was denying that he was a victim, but really talking about the other victims. And it wasn't alleged victims. He said other victims, through his spokesperson. So I think that is very, very important. This isn't a Michael Jackson type case where, celebrities are rushing to Combs' defense. Very few people are. And the fact that you have someone come out that really isn't 50 Cent or someone who, is trying to make light of it or a documentary about it and really point the finger at Diddy, that's a big deal, Jesse.
Justin Bieber's first words on the witness stand were calm, clear, and confident. There was no anger in his voice, just focus. He spoke slowly and deliberately, making sure each word hit its mark. "I'm here to tell the truth," he began, looking straight at the prosecution. The courtroom was completely silent. Everyone wanted to hear what one of the world's most famous performers was about to say. For years, there had been rumors, whispers about Diddy and what went on behind the scenes. But no one expected Bieber to speak about it so directly. He started by describing his early relationship with Diddy. He talked about being young, eager to please, and deeply thankful for Diddy's support. "I trusted him," Bieber said. His voice was steady, but there was emotion underneath. He carefully avoided naming names or giving too many details, but even the things he left out spoke volumes. When asked about Diddy's well-known parties, Bieber paused, just for a second, then answered, "I've seen things at those parties that I can't forget." That one sentence changed the mood in the room. Everyone went quiet again. What had he seen? What was he really saying? Diddy, who had been stiff and still up to that point, visibly tensed up. His jaw clenched. He glanced at his lawyers, who were suddenly scribbling down notes like their lives depended on it. It felt like Bieber had just confirmed what so many had only suspected for years, and he didn't stop there. Without going into graphic detail, Bieber explained how uncomfortable he felt at some of those events. Even as a teenager, he said, he knew something was off. "There were times I felt like I didn't belong, like I shouldn't even be there." He spoke of how most people at these parties were much older and how no one ever questioned anything. "You were just there," he said plainly. "You didn't ask questions." As he began to give more specific examples, the energy in the room shifted again. Reporters leaned in, scribbling furiously. Diddy's legal team looked increasingly anxious. Bieber described the atmosphere as tightly controlled. "It wasn't just a party," he said. "It was controlled. You didn't question it. You didn't say no." That line struck a nerve. Quiet gasps spread through the crowd. If what Bieber was saying was true, this wasn't just about bad behavior or old rumors. It was something far more serious, something that could completely change the direction of the case. But what really got people talking was when Bieber opened up about the lasting impact these experiences had on him. He shared how, for years, he struggled to understand everything that had happened, how those early moments affected his mental health and the decisions he made in his career. His words were powerful, not just because of what he said, but because it was him saying it. Justin Bieber, a global icon, admitting that behind the fame was a much darker story. And then came the moment that truly shook the room and rattled Diddy. "I wasn't the only one," Bieber said without flinching. "There were others, a lot of us, and we all knew it. No one said anything back then because we couldn't. You could feel the air shift. The weight of that one sentence hit everyone. Even those who had been half listening were suddenly wide awake, staring at Bieber with stunned expressions. As for Diddy, he broke. He shook his head slightly, clenched his jaw, and leaned in toward his lawyer, clearly distressed. The pressure was written all over his face. Whatever control the defense had hoped to maintain was quickly slipping away. Bieber, calm as ever, didn't back down. His words weren't just supporting the prosecution, they were transforming the entire case. He wasn't angry, just honest, and that honesty was powerful. By the time Bieber stepped down from the stand, the damage was done. The courtroom buzzed with tension and disbelief. People whispered about his final words, and for the first time, Diddy looked like he had nowhere left to hide. What Bieber said didn't just shake the room, it may have changed everything.
From multiple people connected with Justin's life. We're told that he didn't really have any relationship with Diddy, that all of these videos are performative, and that Justin was friends with Diddy's two sons, but it really wasn't any kind of a relationship with Diddy.
Y'all feel what I'm feeling? Hold up. He said something very interesting in there. He said that Justin Bieber isn't a victim of Diddy's. But he didn't, a lot of times when you hear them talk, and I even have to throw the word out there, but he said that Justin Bieber's team said there are other victims. He didn't say allegedly, right? He didn't say there's allegedly other victims. Also, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, if Diddy is saying, or Justin Bieber is saying, his team is saying that Justin Bieber was friends with his kids, why isn't there any footage of that? You just see Justin Bieber and Diddy, Justin Bieber and Diddy. You don't see Justin Bieber. I'm just saying, I ain't saying those videos don't exist. I'm just saying I haven't seen them. Any footage of Diddy's kids and Justin Bieber hanging out, having fun together. To me, it sounded like Diddy was trying to take Justin Bieber under his wing, show him the industry, show him the ropes, show him all the stuff that comes with the fame, if you know what I mean.
There isn't, and the defense is obviously trying to separate physical harm from sex trafficking and sexual assault, but the average person who's watching isn't going to be making that distinction. That may matter in the case, but it's not going to matter in the court of public opinion.
And Bieber's statement, it comes as this TikTok started floating around on Friday. There was a doctored image of Bieber where he allegedly announces that he's going to testify against Combs.
That morning, Diddy walked into court looking cool, calm, and in control. He adjusted his suit, nodded at his legal team, and even cracked a small smile. To anyone watching, he seemed completely at ease, like a man ready to take on the day. But everything began to shift the moment Justin Bieber took the stand. At first, Diddy kept his composure. He sat back in his chair, face unreadable, but those paying close attention could see it. His jaw tightening, his eyes narrowing just slightly. It was the look of someone who knew trouble was coming. As Bieber began to speak, Diddy leaned forward, elbows on the table. He looked like he was listening closely, but the little signs gave him away, his fingers tapping the desk, ignoring whispers from his lawyers. That confident front he came in with? It was slipping fast. Witnesses later said you could see the tension rising in him with every word Bieber said. When Bieber started talking about those private parties, ones that had long been the subject of rumors, Diddy's reaction changed. His jaw clenched, he looked down and pressed a hand to his mouth like he was trying to hold something back. This wasn't just another day in court anymore. Bieber wasn't just repeating old gossip, he was confirming it and putting it out there for the jury to hear. You could see the panic start to creep in. Diddy's legal team went from composed to frantic, whispering urgently among themselves, clearly caught off guard. Then came the real turning point. Bieber looked straight at the jury and said, "I wasn't the only one." That's when everything changed. Diddy muttered something under his breath. No one could quite make it out, but people nearby definitely noticed. He rubbed his forehead slowly, almost like he was trying to hold it together. One observer later described it as looking like a silent scream. The finger tapping stopped. His hands turned to fists. For a moment, it looked like Diddy was about to speak out. But before he could, one of his lawyers gently touched his arm, clearly trying to keep him calm. From that point on, the mood in the courtroom shifted. You could feel the tension in the air. Reporters exchanged glances, scribbling notes at lightning speed. Everyone knew they were witnessing a major moment and that Diddy's carefully controlled image had just begun to unravel. Every small reaction from Diddy was noticed. Observers whispered among themselves, clearly stunned by what they were witnessing. This was a man known for his control, for being able to command a room with just his presence. But that version of Diddy was gone. He sat rigid, visibly uncomfortable. completely unprepared for the weight of Justin Bieber's words. His legal team tried to stay focused, flipping through documents, avoiding eye contact with the press. But the damage was done. One moment in particular stood out. When Bieber spoke about how he had felt pressured to just go along with things, Diddy gave a sharp shake of his head. It was a small gesture, but in the quiet courtroom, it was deafening. It looked like frustration, maybe even fear, and everyone saw it. By the end of the day, people inside the courtroom were calling it the most revealing moment of the trial so far. Was Diddy feeling guilt, panic, rage? No one could say, for sure, but his reaction didn't go unnoticed. Some believed he was less upset about the accusations themselves and more shaken by the fact that they were finally being said out loud. Others said his usual composed image had simply cracked under pressure, and in a man like Diddy, that vulnerability was shocking. When court was finally adjourned, the energy in the room had changed completely. Diddy left quickly, flanked by his team, who did their best to block reporters and avoid cameras. But the image of him breaking down stayed with everyone, because here's the truth. When someone who's built their entire career on control starts to come undone, people pay attention. And in this case, those cracks weren't just personal, they could be pivotal. People in the courtroom left whispering the same thing. Was this the moment that changed everything? And judging by the look on Diddy's face, it very well might have been.
Are we going to see some celebrity or celebrity friends testify at this trial? Pointing the finger at anybody. But there are those who I'm sure will say, if celebrities knew something, why didn't they say something? And by the way, that came up with the Harvey Weinstein case, right? People allegedly knew rumors about his behaviors, but rumors one thing, how much do you definitively know? What do you say to that? Because again, we obviously don't know who knew what. I don't believe this trial is going to sort through any of that whatsoever. I don't think we're going to be seeing big names either being named in this trial or even taking the stand. But what do you say to the argument somebody had to know something if these allegations are true?
Look, I think it's a fair argument, Jesse. This seems like it was one of the worst kept secrets in Hollywood. How can you sexually abuse or assault people for a span of years or decades and people not know? Especially when a lot of this happened in hotel rooms or with other people around. This is the same arguments people make with respect to Weinstein or Epstein or other abusers. This isn't your typical sexual assault that is behind closed doors without other people present. That's one of the things that makes this case so unique. And look, there is going to be speculation and there is going to be rumors and there are going to be rumors. And that's what social media is all about. I mean, we saw some of the rumors dispelled this week when Cassie was saying, you know what, the baby oil didn't contain drugs. Even the government star witness is addressing some of these rumors on that witness stand. So I'm not surprised Bieber and his reps are doing the same.
And so we contacted Justin's reps and we kind of laid out what we found. And we said, look, this is what, multiple people have been telling us who were in his life, and are no longer, and also people who are in his life now. So we've talked to both. And I think that's really important because he's jettisoned so many people in his life. And they thought about it for a while and then contacted us back, and they actually gave us an on-the-record statement that Justin is not a victim of Diddy's. They said that there are other victims and they don't want to detract from them, but they said that Justin is not a victim of Diddy.
Justin Bieber's testimony be the moment that changes everything in the case against Diddy? That's what everyone is talking about after the shocking revelations in court. Bieber's unexpected appearance shook up the trial, leaving Diddy's defense team scrambling and the public wondering if this could mark the beginning of the end for one of music's biggest power players. So, why does Bieber's testimony matter so much? It's not just about new accusations. His words painted a picture of a long-standing power struggle that many had suspected but couldn't prove. For years, Diddy has been seen as untouchable, someone who could make or break careers and control the stories behind the scenes. Bieber's testimony challenged that image. By talking about those secretive parties, the unwritten rules, and what he saw, Bieber gave the prosecution solid ground to stand on. If his story matches other evidence or witnesses, it could seriously damage Diddy's defense. What makes this even more striking is the history between the two. Bieber wasn't some outsider. He was once very close to Diddy. Their relationship looked like mentor and mentee, with Diddy helping Bieber rise to stardom. They were even spotted together often, and Diddy famously gave Bieber a white Lamborghini when he was just starting out. To most people, they seemed tight, even like family. So Bieber's choice to testify against Diddy hits even harder. It shows how deep the fallout must be, because stepping up in a case like this against someone who once had major influence over your career is not something anyone takes lightly. That brings us back to the courtroom itself. Bieber's testimony didn't just shake things up. It turned the trial in a new direction, raising the stakes for everyone involved. Justin Bieber's testimony was immediate and powerful, marking a complete shift in energy within the courtroom. Observers described the moment as transformative, leaving Diddy visibly agitated and his legal team noticeably more tense. Up until that point, there was still an air of confidence from Diddy's side, but Bieber's words changed the tone entirely. Some speculated that his testimony forced the defense to rethink their strategy on the spot. Legal experts called it a pivotal moment, with one saying, "An insider like Bieber testifying brings a level of credibility that's hard to ignore." Could Bieber's testimony encourage others to come forward? That's the question hanging in the air. By taking the stand, Bieber has essentially opened the door for more witnesses. People who may have seen or experienced similar things, but were too afraid to speak up before. The fact that someone as high-profile as Bieber was willing to testify sends a message. No one, not even Diddy, is above accountability. If additional witnesses step forward and back up Bieber's statements, it could be disastrous for Diddy, both in court and in public perception. What's the immediate fallout for Diddy's legal team? It seemed like a day they'd want to forget. According to insiders, they appeared shaken after Bieber left the stand, visibly regrouping and even requesting a brief recess to reassess their approach. This alone speaks volumes about the impact of Bieber's words. His testimony didn't just rattle Diddy emotionally, it forced his legal team to consider how to recover from the blow. And let's not underestimate the reputational damage. For someone like Diddy, whose career is built on influence and an almost untouchable image, this trial, and Bieber's testimony in particular, could leave a permanent stain. Diddy's power in the industry has always depended on a certain level of mystique and control. But with Bieber lifting the veil and shedding light on what's happened behind closed doors, that control is starting to unravel. The court of public opinion is paying close attention. Could this lead others to distance themselves from Diddy entirely to protect their own reputations? It's possible. One thing is clear. Bieber's testimony was a turning point, not just for the trial, but for Diddy's carefully crafted image. Whether or not it's enough to seal the prosecution's case remains to be seen, but it's already left its mark. The courtroom may have quieted down after Bieber's exit, but the ripple effects of his words are only beginning to spread. What happens next could decide not only Diddy's future, but also whether others like Bieber follow in his footsteps. For years, Diddy's infamous private parties have been at the center of Hollywood whispers. These parties were legendary, yes, but also cloaked in secrecy. Access was limited to an exclusive circle. Industry elites, rising stars, and insiders who never shared what went on behind those closed doors. The rumors, though, were anything but quiet. They painted a picture of extravagant, no-holds-barred, events where rules didn't apply and where Diddy's influence ran deep. Bieber's testimony couldn't have come at a worse time for Diddy's reputation. His words weren't just allegations. They were windows into a world no one was supposed to confirm. Bieber didn't lay it all out in detail, but what he said struck at the heart of those rumors. He referenced atmospheres that made attendees uncomfortable, particularly people like him who entered the industry at a young age. "I've been to those parties," he recounted, keeping his tone measured. "Sometimes I didn't feel like I should even be there." That one statement was enough to renew public interest in what exactly happens at these gatherings. Over the years, stories about Diddy's parties have hinted at more than just wild nights. They've been linked to power, a way to keep people close, to make alliances, to ensure there was always a hierarchy in the room. Bieber's words suggested these weren't just parties. They were something darker, orchestrated for reasons beyond fun. The cultural relevance of these parties mattered too. For nearly 2 decades, Diddy's events have been seen as moments where Hollywood mixed with the music industry, a place where careers were boosted or sometimes quietly manipulated. Attending one meant you were part of a chosen few who'd made it, and for Diddy, this exclusivity wasn't just about prestige. It was control. His parties were extensions of the power he wielded, places where silence seemed to be an unspoken rule. Now, with Bieber calling attention to them, that quiet code appears to be unraveling. There's heavy speculation about what Bieber might have experienced during those nights. Based on his testimony, it's clear some events left enough of an impression for him to come forward years later. At one point, he said, "You didn't ask questions and you didn't say no." Those words hit hard in the courtroom, especially given his young age at the height of his fame. It raises questions about what pressures he might have faced, and by extension, what others might have endured while mingling in Diddy's exclusive spaces. Could these parties have been places where boundaries were pushed, where appearances masked a more sinister undercurrent? Bieber didn't say it outright, but the implications were impossible to ignore. As for Diddy's reputation, this is devastating territory. The brilliance of these events, the very thing that made them famous, was their allure. They portrayed him as a tastemaker, a cultural giant who could blend celebrity and exclusivity effortlessly. But Bieber's testimony flips that narrative entirely. Instead of celebrations of success, they begin to sound like controlled environments designed with ulterior motives. For someone who's mastered the art of public perception, this threatens to dismantle the carefully crafted image Diddy spent years building. The worst part, with Bieber finally breaking the silence, there's no telling how many others may follow. If witnesses step forward with similar accounts, the ripple effects could be massive. Bieber's words carry weight not only because of who he is, but because of what they represent. A crack in the larger perception of power in the entertainment industry. Diddy's camp, already reeling from the trial's dramatic moments, now faces the possibility of further scrutiny from people who've stayed silent for years. No matter what happens, this renewed interest in Diddy's parties shifts the spotlight away from his legacy of music and business success, and toward a narrative he's unlikely to control. The exact details Bieber shared about the parties remain under wraps, but even the smallest confirmation has set public opinion ablaze. Diddy built his empire on control, controlling his career, his relationships, and most clearly, his image. But Bieber's testimony was a crack in the foundation, one he's hoped others won't exploit. With his reputation on the line, this trial has quickly turned from legal trouble into a full-blown cultural reckoning. And the fallout? It's not just for Diddy. It could reshape how power in Hollywood is viewed for years to come. What's next remains a mystery, but one thing is clear. The silence surrounding Diddy's parties can't last forever. Could Bieber's testimony mark the beginning of the end for Diddy? With every explosive revelation, the layers protecting Diddy's carefully crafted image are peeling away. Bieber, once seen as a protege, has become a critical voice in a story no one expected him to share. The courtroom drama isn't slowing down, and the questions around Diddy's past are only growing louder. What's your take? Do you think Bieber's decision to testify will change everything? Share your thoughts below and stay tuned. Because if this week revealed anything, it's that the shocks are far from over.